Alright, family. It's the powerful I am. It's me, 50 the Mystic. We're continuing on our journey about teaching about money and possessions. Today we're getting into Matthew 6 verse 20. And the scripture says, "But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal." Now this verse itself, it shifts the teaching from warning to invitation, using powerful symbolic language to reveal where true spiritual wealth is stored. In allegory, treasures in heaven represents the inner riches of the soul, not a physical location above the clouds. Heaven symbolizes higher consciousness, spiritual awareness, alignment with divine truth, and the internal state where your values and identity are anchored in eternity rather than temporary world. To lay up treasures in heaven means to invest energy, intention, and identity into what does not decay: your character, your wisdom, compassion, integrity, your own faith, purpose, and spiritual maturity. Unlike earthly treasures that can fade, be corrupted, or be stolen, heavenly treasures symbolizes qualities that no external force can take away. Moth and rust represent decay, but in this verse, they symbolize the decay that never touches spiritual identity. The deeper meaning is that inner growth does not deteriorate. Once a soul gains wisdom, insight, or transformation, time cannot erode it. Once a person becomes grounded in spiritual truth, external circumstances cannot break that foundation that you have built. Your foundation is built and structured on truth and not material possessions. You need to understand, this is how a wealthy man can lose everything and go back and make it all again, because he did not put his faith in the possessions. He has stored the treasures for himself up in heaven, and he knows he can go back and do it all over again. The phrase "where thieves do not break through nor steal" symbolizes a state of security that cannot be shaken. Thieves represent life's unpredictable challenges such as betrayal, loss, suffering, or sudden change. Heavenly treasure cannot be stolen because it is not stored in a place accessible to external disruption. It exists in the inner world, protected by divine structure and spiritual law. Allegorically, this verse invites the reader to shift their focus from outward accumulation to inward cultivation, where the true riches of the soul lie. Earthly wealth can support you for a season. Heavenly treasures support you for a lifetime and beyond. It is the difference between building a life on sand and building a life on rock. Because the scripture in itself reflects a deep psychological truth about where stability is formed inside the human mind. Treasure in heaven symbolizes the inner structures of identity and mental resilience. In the architecture of the mind, heaven represents the higher mental faculty, the parts of the psyche associated with long-term clarity, spiritual awareness, emotional intelligence, and internal stability. This includes this prefrontal cortex, which governs decision-making, reasoning, empathy, and moral grounding. Laying up treasures in heaven means building identity within these stable regions rather than relying on the unstable, emotion-driven responses of the lower brain. Moth and rust represent natural psychological decay. The moth symbolizes intrusive, anxious thoughts, small mental patterns that nibble at your peace and confidence over time. And believe me, they accumulate, because you need to remember even things like depression or accumulation of negative thoughts over a period of time that ultimately result in the depressive state. And if left untreated, it can even lead to more severe cases like psychosis. Rust symbolizes accumulated emotional corrosion from stress, trauma, or unresolved hurt. Earthly treasures stored in the ego get attacked by these forces, but inner treasures are stored deeper within the mind in places unaffected by external change. Inner wisdom, character, self-respect, discipline, and spiritual insight create neural pathways that do not deteriorate easily. They become stable patterns that guide you regardless of circumstances. Thieves do not break through nor steal reflects the mind's ability to protect internal treasures from external disruptions. When your self-worth is built on inner conviction rather than external validation, Outside events cannot steal your peace. When your identity rests on purpose instead of possessions, you remain stable even when life shifts. The nervous system becomes regulated because it no longer perceives loss as a threat to identity. This verse teaches that mental health and emotional strength come from investing in inner treasures. These internal patterns cannot be corrupted by stress, decay, or external chaos. They form the psychological foundation that allows you to live with clarity and resilience. Because it aligns with one of the most important laws in nature and the cosmos. True stability is found only in what is eternal and internal. In nature, everything physical is subject to change. Seasons shift, landscapes erode, ecosystems transform, stars burn out, and all material things follow cycles of birth, decay, and renewal. This mirrors the verse's symbolism of moth and rust. These forces represent the universal law that decay is inevitable in the material world. Nothing external can escape entropy. But when Jesus speaks of treasures in heaven, he is pointing to the cosmic principle that what is rooted in spirit, consciousness, and in alignment does not decay. In cosmic law, heaven represents higher vibration, eternal truth, and states of being untouched by time. It is not a location but a frequency. When you invest in virtues such as wisdom, compassion, courage, spiritual awareness, and inner purity, you are storing energy in realms immune to decay. This aligns with the natural principle that energy invested in spiritual growth cannot be destroyed. Invest in yourself. Invest in your personal growth and development always. The phrase, "where thieves do not break through nor steal," matches the cosmic law of protection. Anything aligned with higher truth cannot be taken by external forces. The universe protects what is built in alignment with divine order. Unlike physical possessions that can be lost, spiritual growth, inner peace, and elevated consciousness are safeguarded by universal law. No event, person, or circumstance can steal what the soul has awakened to. Cosmic law teaches that wealth is not what you hold in your hands, but what you carry in your essence. Treasures built internally are eternal because they exist beyond the reach of decay and disruption. This verse highlights the universal truth that real abundance is energetic, spiritual, and permanent. So you see this in itself. It offers a clear, life-changing principle for how to build a stable and meaningful life for yourself practically. When Jesus teaches you to lay up for yourself treasures, he's urging you to invest your energy in things that cannot be taken away from you. The car can be taken away from you. Your partner can be taken away from you. Your house can be taken away from you. These material things can go. But what have you stored in you that never be taken away? Because what you need to understand, these material things can always be rebuilt. They can always be restored. Think of Job in this instance. In practical terms, this means prioritizing growth in areas that strengthen who you are rather than what you own. Money can disappear. Opportunities can shift. And people can change on you. But your inner development stays with you forever. Heavenly treasure is built through daily choices. Looks like developing discipline, becoming emotionally mature, choosing integrity even when it is difficult, nurturing genuine relationships, deepening your spirituality, cultivating wisdom, and walking in your purpose. These investments cannot be stolen, corrupted, or weakened by life's unpredictability. When you invest in your character, your mindset, that is very important, in your spiritual connection, you become unshakable to the world. The imagery of moth and rust teaches you not to depend on things that deteriorate with time. It challenges you to ask a simple question. If this thing disappeared tomorrow, would my identity collapse with it? If the answer is yes, then it is an earthly treasure and not a heavenly one. Heavenly treasures create inner stability. Earthly treasures create dependence. The phrase, "where thieves do not break through nor steal," is a reminder that internal wealth is theft proof. No one can steal your wisdom from you, nor your experience, your growth, your faith, or your spiritual insights. This is why the Bible even says, when you work as if you are doing it for the Lord. Do not think of your employer. What you are doing is for yourself. Build the experience, the growth, everything in yourself. No employer can take that away from you. Leave that mindset of this is just a 9 to 5. Look at what skills you are gaining. And these are treasures life cannot touch or take from you. Practically, this verse calls you to build a life that is rooted inward, not outward. It invites you to strengthen the parts of yourself that will support you in every season. When your treasure is within, you walk with confidence, clarity, and peace, no matter what changes around you. You need to build a treasure within. Cultivate that inner self-belief and confidence within you. And that can never be taken away from you. And as always, give it a slight preview for what we are covering in the next session. We'll be covering Matthew 6 verse 21, where we will discuss now that where your treasure is, that is where your own heart is also. Till next time, family.